Some stories in American history are so bold, so fearless, and so unexpected that they sound almost unreal, and this is one of them. At a time when the KKK terrorized black communities with intimidation and violence, one U.S. Marine stood his ground with such courage that the Klan themselves ended up running for their lives. His name isn't always taught in classrooms, but his bravery deserves to be remembered. In this video, we're diving into the incredible true story of the Black Marine who refused to be intimidated, who protected his community, and who proved that strength, discipline, and fearlessness can stop hate in its tracks. It's a story of resilience, justice, and standing tall in the face of danger, and it's one you won't forget. Before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because stories like this deserve to be told and preserved. Who was Robert F. Williams? Robert Franklin Williams was born in Monroe, North Carolina in 1925. Growing up in the segregated South, he witnessed racism and violence from an early age. But Williams was different from many activists of his time. After serving in the Marine Corps during World War II, he returned home with military training and a belief that black people had the right to defend themselves. In 1956, he became the president of the Monroe chapter of the NAACP. Unlike other civil rights leaders who strictly followed nonviolence, Williams believed in armed self-defense. He often said that black people should meet violence with violence if necessary. This position put him at odds with national NAACP leadership, but it made him a hero in his community. Williams understood something important. The Klan only terrorized people they thought were defenseless. The KKK threat that changed everything. The trouble started in 1957 when Williams began organizing the black community in Monroe to fight segregation. The local KKK chapter saw this as a direct challenge to white supremacy. They had ruled through fear for generations, burning crosses, bombing homes, and lynching anyone who dared to resist. The Klan assumed Williams would be easy to intimidate, just like countless others before him. They were wrong. One night, a convoy of KKK vehicles rolled through the black neighborhood where Williams lived, firing guns into the air and shouting threats. They expected people to hide in their homes, terrified. Instead, they found Williams and dozens of armed black veterans waiting for them. These men had fought for America overseas and were not about to surrender their own neighborhood to terrorists. The Klan had never faced organized armed resistance before, and they had no idea what to do. The night the Marines fought back. When the Klan motorcade entered the neighborhood that fateful night, Williams and his group were positioned strategically with rifles, shotguns, and military discipline. As the Klan began their intimidation tactics, Williams gave the order and his men opened fire. Not to kill, but to defend. The sound of gunfire coming back at them shocked the Klan members completely. They had never been shot at before while terrorizing black communities. Suddenly, the hunters became the hunted. The Klan vehicles scattered in chaos, some crashing into ditches as they tried to escape. Klansmen abandoned their cars and ran into the woods. The mighty KKK, who had lynched and murdered for decades with impunity, were running for their lives from the very people they had tried to terrorize. News of this confrontation spread like wildfire throughout the South. For the first time, the KKK had been forced to retreat. Williams had proven that when faced with organized armed resistance, the Klan were nothing but cowards hiding behind hoods. What happened after the standoff? The aftermath of the shootout changed everything in Monroe. The KKK never again openly paraded through black neighborhoods in that town. They had been humiliated, and everyone knew it. Local black residents felt a new sense of pride and safety. However, Williams paid a heavy price for his defiance. The NAACP National Office, led by Roy Wilkins, suspended Williams for advocating armed self-defense. They believed it contradicted the nonviolent approach championed by leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. But many black people in the South quietly agreed with Williams. They knew that nonviolence did not always protect them from midnight raids and bombings. In 1961, Williams was falsely accused of kidnapping a white couple during racial unrest in Monroe. Facing a legal system stacked against him, he fled to Cuba and later to China, living in exile for years. He continued to write and speak about black self-defense and liberation from abroad. His newsletter, The Crusader, influenced a new generation of activists, including members of the Black Panther Party, who adopted his philosophy of armed self-defense. The legacy of armed self-defense. Robert Williams returned to the United States in 1969 after the charges against him were finally dismissed, bringing an end to years of political exile. Although he never regained the national visibility he once held in the early 1960s, the influence of his ideas had already spread across the country. Williams had introduced a bold and transformative concept into the civil rights struggle, that black Americans had not only a moral right, but a constitutional right under the Second Amendment to arm themselves and defend their lives when faced with racist violence. This idea was revolutionary at a time when most mainstream civil rights leaders emphasized strict nonviolence. Williams challenged the assumption that black people had to remain passive in the face of terror, especially when groups like the Ku Klux Klan attacked communities with impunity. He argued that self-defense was not an act of aggression, it was an act of survival. His message resonated deeply among younger activists who were witnessing police brutality, racial injustice, and government indifference. By the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s, his influence could be felt across the broader Black freedom movement. The Black Panther Party, founded in 1966 by Huey Newton and Bobby Seeley, openly named Williams as a major inspiration. The Panthers adopted the principle of armed self-defense, conducting legally armed patrols to monitor police behavior, discourage brutality, and protect black neighborhoods. While their approach was controversial to many Americans, it forced the nation to reckon with a hard truth. Oppressed communities would not accept violence without resistance forever. Williams' stance redefined what courage could look like during the civil rights era. For many activists, courage meant enduring beatings, arrests, and humiliation without striking back. But Williams demonstrated another dimension of bravery: the courage to protect your home, your family, and your dignity with a rifle in your hand when night riders or Klansmen came to harm you. He exposed that the KKK's power was rooted almost entirely in fear and intimidation. Once black communities armed themselves and refused to be terrorized, the Klan's dominance collapsed quickly. His legacy serves as a powerful reminder that the civil rights struggle was never a single, unified movement with one strategy or one definition of resistance. It was a complex battle fought on multiple fronts, through peaceful marches and sit-ins, but also through acts of self-defense carried out by ordinary people who refused to let evil go unchallenged.